What's going on, y'all? It's your girl Boos Boswell with the bottom line. Welcome to Soft Life Podcast Monday edition. I thought I'd go live and have an impromptu conversation regarding a trending topic, one that I feel is worthy for the platform's intellect. And wanted to dive in, being that Jonathan Majors finally responded from being convicted of minor assaults, in my opinion. And I wanted to engage the platform, if you will. If not, since it was impromptu, at least share my thoughts and then engage people on the replay. Regardless, we're gonna get this show rolling. So come on in and let's get started. Jonathan Majors, um, rising actor in Hollywood. To be honest with you, I'm actually not a Marvel um, watcher. I didn't know much about him, but doing my research, I grew to understand that he was up and coming and seemed to have a bright future. Uh, have a 9-year old daughter that he pretty much keeps in the background, and have dated a dancer on the East Coast for 2 years. They cohabitated. Fast forward, started to have interests outside of the platonic relationship. They weren't married, and girlfriend catches a hold of it, and all hell breaks loose. And next thing you know, his career's down the drain, and he got a misdemeanor record. All of his future contracts that setting him and his family up for great financial gain just down the drain. And it brings about a question that I wanted to bring to the platform: is what is the let me see if I can bring you on. Hold on, Curry.
How
Well,
you doing?
how are you? Welcome in. Thank you for joining me.
You
Good to
good?
see you. I'm good. Can you hear me?
I can hear you perfectly.
Wonderful. I would turn on the camera, but I didn't took my bath and got into bed. So I said, let me just use my avatar. This is a different angle I'm using too to see how it works. But I appreciate you joining me. I actually was doing a just kind of a summary of how we got here to this conversation. Are you familiar with Jonathan Majors?
No, I'm not familiar. I'm afraid. Sorry.
So let me kind of give you a quick summary of what's going on. This, and I wasn't that familiar with him either, but he was a up and coming actor in Hollywood here in the US, because I know you're based in the UK, correct?
That's right. Yeah.
So very popular. His industry segment is in the Marvel comic, kind of like the gentleman that passed away.
Yeah. Yeah. Not the guy. Black Panther. I think.
Yeah, Black
Yes.
Panther, exactly. So in my mind, he was the next up and coming popular guy like that. I mean, a lot of support, notoriety, all that, right? Um, he's dating a Caucasian lady. Uh, they cohabitated. She's a dancer. They're living on the East Coast, New York, for 2 years. Haven't dated like a lot of years, 2 years. Fast forward, I guess he started to see someone outside the relationship. She maybe saw some things on his phone, and while they were in a taxi. So he gets out the taxi. She's kind of wrestling with him because he's to get to take his phone, and he wants it back. So he ends up running from her outside the taxi. She's chasing him, right? She gets a scratch, and I think she might have broke her finger. Long story short, there's minor charges brought against him. He has minor scratches and everything on him. But being that, so from that incident, he breaks up with her. He's dating. Have you ever heard of Megan Good?
Yeah, they
He's
have.
dating, so he's dating her, and he ends up. So it's all the evidence is in his favor. The taxi driver said the ex-girlfriend is the aggressor. He didn't even he didn't and these are minor. I mean, literally like a scratch, and she might have a broken finger, but she was out that night, same night, when he was running from her, caught on video. She was attacking him. Um, she wasn't that hurt. She partied that night. Next day, he called law enforcement to get in the house because he couldn't get in. When he got in, she um she was laying in the closet with a blanket on her bottom half, naked. I don't know if it was staged or not, but he wanted to get some clothes, so he ended up calling ambulance. Lo and behold, um, he ended up getting convicted, basically over minor charges, emotional. In the end, he hurt her feelings. Is the bottom line, and left her and dumped her, and so he got dropped. All of his future um, partnerships are gone. And it brings about, and Megan, of course, came and supported him. And it definitely brought up conversations trending in regards to black men dating women, Caucasian women at what price. And it was also a follow-up conversation that went with it took a black woman to come. He was looking at more charges, and then they said when Megan Good showed up, half his charges got dropped. So with the analogy that a black woman helped kind of soften his blow. Um, and he came out on Good Morning America this morning and kind of obviously he was flabbergasted because none of the information allegedly, we're gonna put allegedly just for safety purposes, um, was it was all in his favor. He didn't feel a need to testify because everything was, you know, cut and dry. And it wasn't a and it's not like a major um offense or a history of any DV, none of that. No children together. And now 2 years later from dating her, which he said it was he cowered. He should have left the relationship, and the only thing he didn't take care of was her emotions, but he by no means ever physically touched her. And a couple of things I wanted to just kind of bring up and just talk about a little bit is the state of black men dating outside their race. Is it safe? Number one, is because it starts to seem as if once the relationship goes sour when you're dating outside your race, more particularly for a black man and a Caucasian woman, that he doesn't have a safety net at all. And two, black men and black women really need to start having a conversation just in general. I'm not against dating outside your race. I believe you should date whoever you like. But I think the conversation needs to start being had because you have all these silos with, the passport bros, manosphere, all that silliness. And then you have uh the sprinkle chick grooming young women. It's just a very unhealthy division, and it's time to really have conversations. Listen, we don't have to be together, but let's try to develop healthy relationships, um and kind of resolve and heal whatever this pain is that's amongst us. So that's in a nutshell. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, it's an interesting conversation. I think in the UK it's slightly different, but from what we see from the UK, what's happening in America, it is a very because we get sort of different information. There's different takes that we take, especially from a guy's perspective. So there's certain things that we see um, that is slightly concerning. So from in terms of from a black community perspective. So there's a few things, like for example, the music. So I like hip hop, I like rap music. I've always done, but some of the music that's been coming out, especially that speaks out to women, has not been very good. So, like when you look at some of the music, just Beyonce, for example, they talk about single ladies and how empowering that is, but she's married,
Right.
so she's saying you're empowered when you're single, but then she's also married, so she doesn't sing. We just got a little bit compared to other artists that will sing about maybe breakups or whatever, but there's all this about being empowerment, being empowered, having your own money, being independent, and so on. Which is, I think, I've got a daughter, and I would want her to be, uh, to feel confident in herself. I always wanted to be able to go out there and be able to look after herself before she's looked after before she seeks a man to look after her. But at the
Right.
same time, I would also wanted to, if she got into a relationship, in fact, when she gets into a relationship, she's able to be part of that relationship and be in collaboration with her partner. And some of that means um, being humble and being able to obey and being obedient. That's the same for me in my relationship. My wife will allow me to be a leader within that relationship, but on the other side of things is that I have to take a passive role. So, for example, my daughter is got um, ADHD, which is special needs. My wife is well versed in that. So,
Okay.
whenever appointments or we do anything like that, I'm the one that's following and learning what's going on. So she's got better understanding of that. And I take the submissive role. She takes the leadership role on that. In some places where I take the leadership role, I don't no, I've never been with an American lady and I don't know enough. But from what we see portrayed in the media, there isn't that balance of, give and take, or even just bringing up humility within that conversation of relationship is a big talking point. That's based off of Clubhouse. Whenever I said something of that effect, there's been a lot of resistance of why would a woman be humble, which is I don't know why it's a big such a I don't know. Maybe you can explain to me. I don't know. I don't understand enough why it's such a big why it causes so much friction, and I think that's a big factor within relationships.
So from your perspective on in another country, I just want to make sure that I'm assessing what you're saying accurately. The opinion of the black woman in America is we feel basically in a nutshell, we don't need a man and we don't have to be submissive.
That's right.
Okay. Yeah, I think, and somewhere, I think historically that was bred into us. And obviously, not having a man in the household, so there's couple components. Not having a man in the household, a two-parent household is essential for its success, period. I also believe a challenge with finances, black men not being able to earn financially to support their households, or black women earning more than the average black man, and she wanting a man that makes more than her. So if that's the case, if more black women are higher earners than black men, then that'll take the black man out of the equation, which is ridiculous at the end of the day. Now that I'm older, I mean, everybody wants to be equally yoked, or um, women in general, just like a man wants to lead, women wants a leader. But I think it's been so much division, and systematically division has been bred into our societies and our families, that we got to dig our way out of this hole, because we didn't get here by ourselves, by no means, but we're not doing anything to help ourselves or to change the trajectory either. And that's why I started to speak out. Number one, um, I totally feel against the strong black woman mentality. I don't buy into it. I speak out against it. I think it's a setup for failure. I think it's a perfect remedy for bad health, mental health, just everything to go wrong in your life for a black woman. And we have bought into that, not knowingly. We were set up for that. And then when that whole mentality of trying to live that life hit me in my life, reality set in. And then a light bulb went off. And I'm like, this is not, take a man out of the equation. Just that mentality, period, is not healthy. Even when you compare me to my peer groups, and it's a different level of expectation and a different stress level, and we are losing. You can, and I said this on another platform, and they said, oh well, we're making more money. It doesn't matter if you're making more money if you don't have peace of mind and you don't have good health. And so we have to really start to reprogram ourselves and detox from these bad mentalities and behaviors that have been bred into us. And I think we need to help here. I think as a race collectively, but I can only speak for the US, to support men and specifically black men, because I'm a black woman, to seek more therapy and to learn how to resolve some of their emotional struggles and develop some skills and some coping mechanisms because we weren't taught it. And then so men are dealing with a lot of emotional struggles or instabilities that they have never been supported in understanding and coping with properly. And then we go to them trying to get them to fix us and lead us. And then here we are,
That's right.
you know?
No, I don't know if you've got some male audience, but I personally been to therapy and was the best decision I've ever made for my life. Because I think most people go when they think about therapy, they think it's something to do with deal with weakness, that you're weak because you're going to therapy. But I came to the realization that everybody needs therapy. We're the only mammals that have our young staying with us. I mean, my son is 21 now. He's still living with us, and he will be living with us for quite some time. So you can imagine, within 21 years, there's no way I was a perfect dad throughout. There's no way my wife was a perfect mom. We have messed up along the way, and we've messed him up along the way. So just as our daughter, we all make mistakes, and we those mistakes have got ripple effects.
They do.
They move. So the way he makes decisions now is based off of the mistake I made when you were 6 years old or 7 years old or whatever. So at some point he's going to go to therapy, so is my daughter's going to go to therapy, so they can work through that. And it's not even about, I mean, there's a process of healing, but there's also a place of just really getting, like you said, getting better at coping with those insecurities when they come up. Because when one thing I personally discovered when I was um, when I started a business when I was quite young, and made some money, and it went completely tanked in the front. So, sorry, just gonna stop 1 second.
Oh, take
Yeah,
your time.
yeah, it completely tanked because some of the insecurities I had. So, made my first money, and just like most universally across the black community, when I bought a really expensive car, bought expensive clothes,
Yeah.
uh, into debt, and I couldn't sustain. So I was spending quicker than I was earning, and eventually got myself in a really bad place. I mean, if I had better, you know, values when it comes to money, and I was be taught properly, which is one of the things that is lacking within the black community, where I don't need to flex in order to feel a good sense of self worth. Um, because I think this was my own issues that I needed to flex in order for people to see who I was, where I
Hmm.
was, get this external validation, because I probably didn't like myself of, you know, because of insecurities. Um, After going through that, I don't feel like I need to do anything external to impress anyone in order to feel good about myself. And that's one thing that I find within the Black community, not just uh, men, but including women as well. We've been put in this place where, again, women identify with being strong and independent as something of, I'm carrying this thing here and this badge to try and show this external thing to get this internal validation that is not there. And obviously, it's all of it is all destructive within the Black community. Something that I think needs to be addressed. Like I said, going to therapy is one of the steps that will get us to that place. You know.
That's spot on. And actually, I do have some males that are in the community, and they'll come back and they'll like leave me comments in different videos just to get my perspective. And something that you said is very humbling and honest. And I've also shared on these platforms as well. Is I've admitted I wasn't always the best mother. And that's just the truth. I made a lot of mistakes, you know. I worked a lot. I some of my upbringing, I implemented and used on my children, and it wasn't well. So I also um, identified it and wanted to change that experience for my children. So my daughter have went to therapy a couple of times. That's she's a sophomore in college. My son is almost 30. He's 29. My kids are 10 years apart. They're grown. But her and her father and we spent our resources to make sure that we supported her, you know, going to therapy because she felt like she couldn't open up to us. And one of the things that I have been able to do is to kind of open up and learn and not be as one-sided as my upbringing was, and partnering with some of these younger ladies that I kind of mentioned to you earlier that are a generation um, underneath me. uh, Number one, I offer them insight in a conversation that they may not be able to have with their parents, and they also give me insight and a different perspective, you know, from their generation. And it's a healthy collaboration and conversation. And I think different perspectives can kind of push the needle, because one thing I do know to be true is definitely being on TikTok is a lot of these younger people have a very unhealthy relationship with their parents. And every time I put something about adult children here on YouTube, those videos get a lot of rhythm, because you got a lot of adult parents that want answers and they don't know how to deal with their adult children because they adult children don't want nothing to do with them. And
Yeah,
it's just a sad state of events. And but that's but it's not it's a culture, and it's not just one area. Like, more people than not are feeling this. And then the reality is, so I believe, we have to start stepping in, speaking up like you and I do, try to understand, because ain't nobody coming to save us. We really have to change this thing on our own and really try to take back control and in our communities and support and redirect, you know, what has happened here, because everybody going in all different directions and ain't nobody going nowhere.
very true. Very true. And you're absolutely spot on. And like you said, I'm glad you said it. There is nobody that's coming out, uh, to come and save us. We have to do that work, and it's part of it is just raising that standards of what is acceptable. In fact, I mean, I was speaking to a gentleman earlier, saying that uh, we've just lowered our standards. We just
We have.
really ourselves as really somebody who's low, and until you raise those standards, uh, we're always going to have, where we are. And it's quite easy for us to have this conversation 50 years from now if we don't raise our standards, because we'll be like, why is it that black men are not dating black women? And again, it's one of those things is that are we doing what it takes to change that narrative? And I think that's why I'm grateful for your content, because you now having that discussion of, is this the best that we can do? And it's amazing that somebody's asking that question. It's like, is this the best that we can do? Can we do better than where we are right now? And I think it certainly opens up the conversation of how can we improve as a community, and how can we get better situations, for example, for black men and for black women in the future in terms of dating and relationships.
Because I think when these platforms pop up, when the Passport Pros Bro, excuse me, Manosphere, the Red Pen, that's to me that they wanted, so they divert all the attention to, oh, black women, and but that's something in you that's unhealed, that needs to be resolved. And that's not to say that there's not accountability on the other side, but it's very drastic. And now you have black women that are speaking up and don't acting the same way. And what does that say? That everybody has something going on that has nothing, more times than not, has something to do, that you need to look internally first and fix, and then have discussions outwardly. But nobody wants to talk about it. Or before you start dating outwardly, see what's going on right here where you're at, because that, to me, when you do things, you're not addressing what's really going on. It's
Sure.
just put, how they say, you just putting a band-aid on it. And it's a very sad state of events, because at the end of the day, you can date who you want, but you don't have to hate me, and I don't have to hate you in the process.
Sure.
We don't have to tear each other down, or not support each other, or celebrate each other. Like, and if we have had bad experience with each other, let's learn from it and make sure we don't pass that down to other people, and learn how to get along in the process and move on in happiness and in good health. But we don't do that at all. We get together when we need each other, and that's even worse.
Yeah,
So
and
go
I
ahead.
do have a question,
Mhm.
and this is what one of the things. So, for any of you guys that don't know, I work with a lot of men and men in relationships, and we talk about relationships, and this is now across the board, both white and black, that a lot of men find themselves in situations where the relationship is not going very well, and it's the investment of women sometimes is a little bit lower, because um, just because of where things are. If you think about feminism, if you think about what's been going on in terms of the Harvey Weinstein, there's been a lot of push towards equality, which is I totally support. But there's been some collateral damage in terms of the actual relationships, in terms of marriage and where things are. So in terms of the investment that women put in, so for example, just as an example, the guys that I speak to, the one guy, for example, he's doing 60 hours of work, and then his wife is a stay-at-home mom, but he comes back from work, and then he has to cook, and then he cleans, and
Yeah,
then he
terrible,
is
terrible.
is pretty much doing everything, and
Yes,
it's
it's
still
terrible. I
so
don't
you
I don't support it.
so you got this real misbalance. Now, I'm not saying guys should never clean. I clean, I cook, I do what I need to do,
Mhm.
but it's because we're in collaboration. When I'm doing work somewhere else, or I'm doing my 60 hours of work, for example, uh, she finds it important for me to have food to eat, make sure that my clothes are done, everything is ready for me, and vice versa. On weekend when she wants to rest and I'm at home, then I can do whatever, and we can do that, and we got a good balance with it. But there's this sort of mis misbalance. So the woman wants a guy who earns six figures, but at the same time he has to be willing to come home and cook and clean and do everything else. So there's this mismatch. And now I was wondering, how much of that do you think is affecting how guys couple up? And this is across the board. I know
Hmm.
particularly in the black community it's a problem right now,
Hmm.
but how much of that do you think is an issue?
I think it's a major issue. When think about this, if he has to do everything, what he needs you for?
True.
No, I mean seriously, and I also so taking care of a child is a lot of work. Make no mistake about it. But I also think if you're not filthy rich, this is just my opinion. And I have managed people, and I have been in the corporate America. I've had two children and worked. I've done it all, right? And you do want to break, but and having managed people over 20 years and just you don't manage people, you get to know their lives, right? So knowing a lot of these type of situations, I believe the worst I believe that's a bad situation to have a stay-at-home mom. If a woman is not bred, so back in the day, women were raised and bred for that type of lifestyle, right? That's not that's not current day. Women want that, but they weren't bred into that. And then when they get it, they don't know how to manage it nor appreciate it. I think the worst thing a man could do if he ain't rich is to let a woman just sit at home. I think with a child, after a certain point, I think it's healthy that she at least gets, even if it's a couple days a week, a part-time job, but something to contribute, because I think it's the beginning recipe of resentment, because he's doing everything, and then two, she's taking advantage, and it's just it sets the relationship up for failure at some point. In my mind, I've seen it happen too many times, and I actually, my son's 29. He doesn't have any kids. He has a girlfriend. Um, I said, don't, if you, God forbid, if you have any kids without out of marriage, or when you do, and I've told my nephews this, because his fiance, she doesn't want to work. I said, absolutely not. I tell this to my family members. Seriously, absolutely not. I said, she went to college, she got a degree, she need to utilize it. I said, there's no reason for her not to work. And nowadays, it really does take two. If you are not a trust fund baby, making some serious money out here, she needs to work. Yeah, y'all need to have a conversation before y'all have kids, because the financials, know what you're signing up for. And after some point, she needs to return to work, even if it's just to pay for daycare and to get her out the house. But
True.
to put everything on the other person's back, I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's healthy. And we're not in that time anymore. And the mentality of these younger people, and specifically these younger ladies, I believe a man should be a provider, but who said 100%? You
That's right.
know, I think, and then so he working like a dog, and she ain't, she's taking care of the household. Maybe like you have to take care of each other, and a lot of times these guys are doing things they ain't signed up for, and these chicks are taking more than the guys got to have to give, and it's a remedy for just a nightmare, and that's
Yeah,
as a woman.
it is. I think it's quite challenging because it's one of those things where um, there is some cultural things that are happening right now where you got these TV shows that show super like lifestyles that are not attainable, that are not relatable as well. So if you look at like the Kardashians, for example, the Real Housewives, these sort of sets a distorted reality of what marriage looks like. These are people that are ladies of leisure.
Hmm.
That is not the same for the normal person. This is like 1% of population that lives like that. The rest of us have to work, have to find ways of providing. If they're not working, then at least you have to be for a season okay with dealing with the diapers and working at home and having to provide and be supportive to the husband. And I think a lot of that, because when you compare yourself to that, then you think, maybe I've done something wrong in my lifetime for me to be in this place, which is, I mean, like you said, raising a child is the most difficult thing. I remember when my wife was at home and I was doing all the work and she was staying at home. Uh, our relationship got very challenging because all of a sudden she's at home with this baby and she's not speaking to adults. She's just, from a mental well-being standpoint, she needed to leave the house. And like you're absolutely spot on. She started going to exercise classes twice a week, and there was an instant change within our relationship. It was so much better when she was getting that adult interaction. But she was just working, doing something outside of the house. So you're absolutely spot on. If sitting at home and just dealing with the kids and not doing anything within the relationship, it definitely recipe for disaster. Absolutely spot on.
And it really is. And the next thing you know, now you have a broken family that you no longer have two parent households. And to your point, like you said, like these reality shows and this and these social medias is setting people up for false expectations. And now you have all these people, you have chicks that's making 30,000, but she wants somebody that's six figures or a millionaire. I mean, seriously, and or the flip side of it, you have guys that think that women are so desperate that he don't have to bring nothing to the table. It's so off balance. It's just it's unrealistic. And so that's what's going on. That's just amongst us, right? And just to take it back to the topics, and now you got a guy that is successful that dates outside his race, and one false mess up, and your life is ruined.
Listen,
And it's a minor mess. I mean, this ain't like no major, like the conversation is going now. If he was of another race, it would have never made it to court. And it is that, like, it's basically you got scratched, and
that's right.
and and you ran from a situation, and just because you hurt that person's feelings, now you guilty. I mean,
it's
this really happened.
it is crazy. Yeah, and it's so much more difficult in America because I've got no idea, but from outside looking in, it, uh, the wheels of justice operate differently based on skin color. That's what we. That's what we're led to believe, at least from what the media says. But, um, you know, the wheels of if, like you said, if he was another gentleman of Caucasian persuasion, um, it would have been just a slap on the wrist and that's it. But because it's a black man, a successful black man as well, yeah, definitely things would have been. Yeah, you can see why it's played out that way, for
Yeah.
sure.
And the sad part about it, and I'm not coming to his defense because he made that choice, but it's the harsh reality that black men need to look at. So you have all these guys that's going to these other countries. Some of these countries ain't playing with you. I know, and I've taken time. I'm not interested, in these guys, but I like to be aware and be educated to know, like just what's going on out there. And I followed a couple of channels just to try to understand the mentality. And I know, I forget the guy's name. His name is Ashton or something. I followed him for a little while. Younger guy that travels outside the U.S.
I know the guy.
You know who the guy? So I don't follow him anymore. But he got himself jammed up in Brazil, and he can't even go back there no more. Like some of these places ain't playing with you, and it's also, and so another guy came out. in Thailand, I forget the city that's real popular, that he started exposing the realities of
Yeah,
what
probably. Yeah,
did you
Phuket is
see? Yeah, Phuket. Yeah, so you know what I'm talking about. So they go in these other countries and it ain't no better. So you running from something and you running into something worse because you get off in these other countries and it's a whole nother ball game and you don't know what you're dealing with over there. And it's like it's time out. And at some point it's gonna wear you down, the trajectory of your life and your lifestyle. Because it's gonna catch up on you. And when it sneak up on you, most people are not prepared and don't see it coming. And
that's true.
that's what's going on. And it's
That
just
is true.
it's unfortunate. But my heart goes out to this guy, it really does. And the mentality is, people always say that's what he get, or oh, I knew it. But it does bring a thought. It does invoke a thought that, and I've seen it time and time again, when you pay attention, you hurt somebody's feeling outside your race, and good luck. No, I'm
It
seriously,
is.
you know. Even I mean, to the point to where you got videotape and still,
Yeah,
it like people need to really start to rethink some things and move in this world differently. And I don't really care where you are. It's a that this ain't a US thing. This a global thing.
yeah,
But I thank you for coming. Let's we gotta collab more seriously, because and like the young ladies, even though it's on TikTok, but I told them, I said nothing trumps YouTube, right? Um, because I think different perspectives is necessary and needed. You know what I mean?
absolutely. Yeah, definitely. And again, I love hearing what you have to say. Completely agree with what you're saying, so especially with what you're saying to the young ladies. I mean, I know you're wrapping up, but there's one thing I was saying earlier on to my client is that um, when how I got into this thing was more to do with when I was growing up. My mom couldn't afford to look after us, so we used to go to a care home. She used to look after old people,
Okay.
and in order to get food, they'll go to the cafeteria and then they'll make a plate for me and my siblings, and I got to speak to a lot of these old people. And I would listen to them and we'll talk. And you imagine, for as a 17-year-old, you go to school, you come back, and then you find out that this person that you're speaking to has passed away. And it's only up until recently I started recalling some of those conversations. And now I understand a little bit more. A lot of them were filled with so much regret, with the way how we live our lives and what we think is valuable is nowhere close to being valuable. And probably that's what shaped me, the way I think and the way I look at the world. That some of the things that we consider important unimportant. The last 3 minutes of your life could be either filled with absolute peace because you've lived a life where you looked internally for happiness and figured out how to be happy by yourself, or at least make yourself happy without any external influence, and experience fulfillment by understanding how to make yourself feel happy and understand that, and then being in contribution for everybody else to be happy. um, that's the one thing I've started realizing that is the most important thing. A lot of people that didn't realize that the last 3 minutes of their life was the most painful because it was regret, and they realized that none of it was that important. The only important thing was me being okay, and then me contributing to those people that are around me and making them um, have a better experience or life experience. So just try over
And
there.
that's what I talked to about those young ladies, because I actually met them. There's another young lady that's about 30, 31, that kind of went viral, because I I was only on TikTok because my daughter is on there, and just to kind of learn about that generation, but I really didn't engage, right? And then I started getting a following because I would, whatever I did over here, I would just throw it up over there and come back over here. But um so the girl that went viral, because her topic was talk about narcissists, right? And basically it became It's a platform full of hurt young ladies. Hey, Carrie, welcome in. Um, and so it's a pity party, really. And they so I would go and listen, because the platform just took off like couple 100,000, like in less than 30 days. It was like that. So number one, what is that? That's a key indicator of so many hurt, broken people, right? That need that are hurting and need to tell their story. And so I would listen, and story after story, everybody is talking about their pain and what their ex or baby daddy, whoever has done to them, hurt them, gaslit them, whatever, love bombed them. And so one day I finally requested to get on the platform after hearing everybody talk about the other person. Only thing I wanted to know was, let's talk about you. Let's talk about how you got in this situation and what you need to do. And my whole theme is this: is how do we return you back to yourself? Because when you get in these situations, you have loaned yourself out to other people, or you have given yourself away to other people, and you're depending on other people to fix you or to complete you, to make you whole. And that is a responsibility that only you can do. And that's how those younger ladies started to gravitate to me. I said, because we can sit here all day and have a pity party. I said, misery really does feed off of misery. I said, but you got to get to what happened, how it happened, so it won't happen again. And and how do you move past this? It ain't about the other person no more. It's about you. How do you get well?
That's right.
Because it's so much that we go through, and at the end of the day, I said, you think you got all this time in life, but you really don't.
That's right. Very true.
And people are out here playing with life, and no, time out for that. I mean, I'm 49 years old. I'll be 50 soon. I can remember when I was 20, 30, like it was yesterday. I'm still in awe how quickly that time has went by. And I say, the good news is what I know today. Women older me, women and men that are older than me still don't know. And that I'm glad that I've met some younger people. You get a chance to learn and implement earlier than me. I said, let's quit relearning lessons already taught.
That's right.
We keep relearning these lessons. I said it's a benefit to partner or to affiliate. To your point, is it
Correct.
Curry? Older people share some wisdom with you. That's called a blessing if you take it. Those stories you learn, you saw that misery, so that was insight there. You know what I mean? People don't take time to learn lessons. They so busy trying to run from themselves and trying to get somebody else to fix them or provide something that they think they lacking, and ain't nobody get nowhere.
So true.
Yeah,
Very true. And I think that you're absolutely spot on, and it's still it comes back to that. If you don't have the capacity to make yourself happy, and you don't have that way of figuring out how to feel fulfilled, you're always going to be searching for somebody else or something else to fill in that gap. And when you do, it's always going to end up in unhappiness. In fact, over Christmas, I spoke to a young lady. She's got four kids with three different men,
mhm.
and we're situations just like, oh, none of the men are really good, there's something wrong with men. I said, I don't think men is the issue in this circumstance, especially for your case, which she made a little bit angry with me because I said so. But I was saying, I think the issue might be with you. And I said, my example is, if I went to uh, an ocean and I wanted to catch shark, I don't just throw any old bait in it. I have to throw the right bait in order to get the right fish. So you have to, if you wanted a good man, then you have to do the right things that would attract a good man, for example. So one of those things is, you know, being able to have that capacity to make yourself feel happy, which is part of it, like I said, discovering yourself through therapy. What are those things, insecurities that are holding me back from feeling happy? What are those insecurities that are holding me back to feel fulfilled? In fact, one example of this is when I was speaking to my wife about this. We're talking about how in a relationship we can get into contribution, and we're talking about how it's important for us to be selfish to a certain point. Not selfish as in holding back, but in terms of I need to make time for myself to be whole before I can then come and be in contribution to you. Because if I go empty to my wife, I'm in a place where I want to take from the relationship. Whereas if I go and make myself whole, I'm now in a place in contribution. Now, if both of us are in contribution, it makes for a better relationship than if she's trying to take and I'm trying to take, and then there's nothing for us to feed from. Whereas it's a lot different when you're in contribution. So it becomes very important, like you said, really going through therapy, rediscovering yourself, and getting better of figuring out what's that thing that makes me happy. How do I feel whole? Um, just one last point. I discovered that for me, um, we I got into a weird dynamic with when we talk about parenting, that my mom never knew how to be a parent that makes us as children feel okay as just who we are. My mom was of the I love my mom, by the way. She's an incredible woman. She did the best she could. But the only time we felt validated and loved was when we did good acts. So I now felt like I needed to do good things in order to feel affection and appreciation from my mom, which set precedent for my future relationships. Wherever I went, I felt like I needed to do something in order to earn love, and I never felt I was good enough to receive love just the way I was. So it sets the relationship in a very negative place when you cannot find that place where you can be fulfilled just being by yourself and being happy when you're just being by yourself. Because when I figured that out, it made our relationship a lot better for my wife, because now I knew that I'm okay by myself. I can now be in a place of contribution. So
Absolutely. And to your point, I know you got to go, but I want to follow up. It puts a false expectation on the other person that the other person will never be able to fulfill. And to your point, where we was talking earlier about the adult child parent relationship, or even child parent relationship, what I have um, identified is there is a lot of healing that needs to happen from our upbringing, from our mothers and our fathers. And it's really not, and like you said, it's we love our parents. This is our generation, not the millennials or the Gen Z. This is Gen X, or I don't know, what generation are you?
I think I'm Gen X.
Okay. So um they our parents didn't have a lot of the love and the support that they needed. So they didn't have the ability to nurture us. I think, our generation is the first one. We passed down a lot of pain too now, but we are starting to identify. We are really the first Gen X is starting to get more, I think, therapy than our parents, and and trying to understand our children better, to close that gap. But it's still a harsh reality with that broken relationship with the parents, and then that um false expectation of your partner that it's just not going to be able to be fulfilled. And at the end of the day, us as Black people, whether you're in the UK, the US, in Africa, Ghana, I don't care, we have to start having these conversations, honest conversations within ourselves about the hate that we have developed, for the opposite sex, and the harsh negativity, and let's take out relationships just as people amongst each other, because there is a true distaste and a dislike that is just growing, and and it is just a major disease, and I don't and both sides think they're winning, and we both losing.
True.
You know,
It's very true.
I know.
Absolutely incredible. I'm going to have to go soon, and thank you very much for getting me onto your platform. And absolutely incredible. Love your videos, love your insights, incredible. And I'm glad that you're serving these young women and the black community as a whole as well. So absolutely appreciate you.
And I appreciate you coming. And whenever we can do this again, and I love what you're doing with the young men. We got to continue to do what we do because somebody got to do it. And again, we got to be the people we need. We can't wait on somebody. So, hats off to you. Excellent conversation. I appreciate you, and have a wonderful night.
You too. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Take care.
Take care.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. So the topic for those that are still here, just to give you a recap, it was thank you very kindly. It was regarding Jonathan Majors. Just wanted to highlight the realities of how unsafe it can be when you end a relationship outside of your race, and specifically for a black man dating a Caucasian woman, depending on the social status and the social class, it can truly be detrimental to your career and your overall safety. And I think this is a prime example um, that men need to have. And I believe you should be able to date whoever you like. But I also think that you need to really understand what it is you're signing up for and where are you emotionally. Because at the end of the day, in my opinion, what happened between Jonathan and Grace was he cheated on her, hurt her feelings, was about to leave her, and she gave him a parting gift, and that was, I'm gonna make you regret you did this. His career is down the drain for now. Anyway, I hope that he has the opportunity to bounce back, but who knows? Sometimes, um, they don't. And you would think like this was something major, like he really like attacked this girl. She didn't have no more bruises on her than he didn't had on him. And the taxi driver validated that she was the aggressor, and he got out and ran from her. She had a scratch on her, he had a couple on him, and the verdict was still guilty. It's just unbelievable, but it's a reality of where we're at. And I don't care what race you are, when you deal with unhealed people, you set yourself up to be taken advantage of or to be attacked. um, because people can be very vengeful when you've hurt their feelings. And I think that's what's happened to this young man. But all in all, you have to get real in order to heal. And hopefully, he will take this time to do self reflection and make better decisions when dealing with people's hearts, because hearts are nothing to play with. A lot of ugly will come out when you start to deal with unresolved or hurt feelings. And the reality is, whether we want to deal with it or not, when you date outside your race, it comes with possible consequences or um, the removal of a safety net, I'll say. Whatever you do, be true to thyself and make sure that you protect yourself and be well. I'm Boos Boswell, edition of Soft Life Podcast. Just wanted to jump on a Monday night because this is a topic worthy for the platform, and I thought I'd jump on and talk about it. If nothing else, take care of yourself. I'll see you again real soon. Thanks for coming in, my friend. Have a good night. God's blessings.